Hello everybody, this is Kent Mayhew with New Thermodynamics, and today we're going to rethink Henry's Law. Okay, and I'm trying to rewrite thermodynamics using common sense. My webpage is www.newthermodynamics.com. Thank you kindly. Now, have I said this before, and I'll say it again, too often we get things right for the wrong reasons. Okay, philosophers like to call this confirmation bias. It is a cognitive bias that involves favoring the information that confirms your previous existing beliefs. Okay, and this applies to governments, science, religion. It's just human nature. We're not as smart as we think we are, folks. Okay, understanding Henry's Law is a prime example where an illogical theory is applied and accepted, and we're going to go through that. Okay. Do dissolved gases have enough energy to become gaseous? I believe they do. In a video concerning latent heat and probability of vaporization, it was discussed how Boltzmann's exponential formed the basis of the probability functions. Okay, and this is for liquids attaining enough energy to vaporize. But when we consider dissolved gases, we assume that the gas has enough energy to become a gas, or the dissolved gas has enough energy. It is just trapped or constrained by the liquid molecules that surround them. Therefore, the probability of a dissolved gas attaining sufficient energy from its neighbors becomes unity. Okay, so our functions are not going to have that Boltzmann's exponential in it. This is just what we're saying here. Since the probability from an energy perspective is unity, then the rate at which aqueous molecules become gaseous molecules is defined by this equation. Okay, and J aqueous to gas equals the normalization factor times the concentration within the liquid. Okay, and that's just the rate of dissolved gas becoming gaseous. The normalization factor can actually be considered as constants, but over different distances or below the tensile surface, right? So the farther down you get, the bigger n is. So then we can rewrite the first equation as a summation. Okay, and you can imagine that as you get closer to the surface, then the value of n is going to become greater, and the number of molecules that can actually have the energy to escape increases. The normalization factor, we know that the solubility of gases decreases with increasing temperature. Okay, now this is tricky to explain on our very basic rate equation that we gave on the previous slide. Hence, scientists resort to illogical entropy-based theories and arguments, and they drive me nuts, okay? But reality is the normalization factor is not a constant. Rather, it is a function of both temperature and pressure, okay? As the temperature increases, it increases the kinetic energy of the dissolved gases. And this means that they vibrate with more vigor, and they have a greater mean effective volume. You can imagine the greater the kinetic energy of the gas is, then the mean volume that they occupy will increase. Okay? Therefore, their scattering cross-section increases, and this means that their likelihood of contacting the surface and being able to escape the liquid increases. Also, their buoyancy increases, you can imagine, as their effective volume increases. Okay, temperature also decreases the surrounding liquid's cohesive forces, right? So then the liquid's cohesive forces decline, and the energy and vigor with which the dissolved gases bounce around increases. Okay, now a pressure increase, it decreases the dissolved gas's mean effective volume. Okay, you can imagine that the volume occupied by the gas, or how much volume it can get in between the liquid molecules, decreases. So this decreases its scattering cross-section. Okay, a pressure increase also increases the force and constraint imposed upon the dissolved gases. Right? You can imagine that the dissolved gases want to be a gas, they want to have the volume of a gas, but they have constraining forces. And these are both pressure and from the liquid molecules, cohesive forces. Okay? Okay, so traditionally we consider Henry's Law, okay, and this defines the solubility of a gas in a liquid. So gas's solubility in a liquid increases with pressure. In terms of Henry's constant and solubility, we write the equation on the right here, S equals KHB, P, pressure. In writing Henry's Law, pressure is considered as the effective concentration, which really defines the number of molecules hitting the liquid with enough energy to become embedded in the liquid. So you can imagine the low pressure gas on the left figure 13.3, very few molecules hit the liquid with enough energy to become dissolved, right? So you can imagine that the solubility of that gas is lower than the high pressure gas on the right, where more molecules are hitting the liquid with sufficient energy to become embedded in the liquid. Okay? But what Henry's law fails to realize is that pressure is also a force of constraint. Hence, the normalization factor in the rate equation for dissolved gases becoming gaseous changes with pressure, right? So there is a need to rewrite Henry's law so that there is pressure as an effective concentration and pressure as a force of constraint. I'm going to tell you a quick story here. A couple of decades ago, I got involved with this company, and they liked what I had to say until I opened my mouth too much. And I basically, what they had was they had this elaborate system with these membranes, and they had high pressure pushing down on the membrane, and what they were able to do was get very high concentrations of dissolved gases and liquids. And they had it patented, and they claimed it was their membrane and all that, and they're all proud of it. Okay, and I walked in there and I looked at it and I explained to them, no, it is the functionality, that pressure as a force of constraint. I never heard back from them. Okay, they wanted nothing to do with me because their probability that they probably made millions off of, okay, and they were using it in various systems, but their whole basis of what they were doing was wrong, right? But again, they were doing things right for the wrong reasons or the wrong theory, however you want to look at it. Of course, people like me aren't appreciated when I walk in there and I open my mouth. It's a lesson in life. Sometimes you just got to keep your mouth shut. In this video, we saw Henry's law, and we saw that it has issues. It works. It's not a biggie. It's not a big deal. But someone should sit there and rewrite Henry's law in terms of effective concentration and force of constraint. Okay, and that's separating pressure into the two realms. Okay, I've written a book, New Thermodynamics, Say No to Entropy. I am in the process of rewriting this book for a third time and renaming it New Thermodynamics, Goodbye to the Second Law. Okay, it's basically the same book, but I have new realizations, hence had to rewrite a few chapters. Chapter 4 concerning work, and also a chapter on Gibbs free energy and stuff like that. So everything changes. You know, I need help, people. I'm trying to help you out just much, but it's so hard to change that bias that people have. You know, you get educated, you think that this way, and you just don't change. It's horrible. It really is. We need to become open-minded humans.